Today is Sunday, March 17th, and I'm Maria Kazakos, the Senior Vice President of Sales for Berkshire Hathaway, HomeServices, Carolina's companies. This message is for my friends and fellow dyslexic Americans who only read headlines. The mass media has taken some fascinating liberties in the hours following the announcement of NAR's legal settlement. Here's what you should know. In North Carolina, buyers and sellers can and do transact real estate without representation. However, many buyers and sellers consistently elect to hire a real estate agent to represent their interests and assist them in the purchase or sale of a home. Commissions paid by sellers and buyers have always been negotiable. Sellers interview agents from different firms that often provide various levels of service. As we all know, there is always someone willing to do it for cheaper. From limited service companies who simply put the property in MLS, to full-service firms who stage properties and run comprehensive advertising campaigns. The options seem almost endless. The real estate firm decides what they will charge for their services, and the seller enters into a listing agreement based on the terms both parties have agreed to. Similarly, in North Carolina, buyers often enter into a buyer agency agreement to hire an agent to represent their interests in the purchase of a home. Buyers can choose among many options as well, such as limited service brokers who often offer some sort of rebate at closing, or they can hire a full service agent who charges a higher fee for their services. When a company lists a property for sale, it has been customary for the seller to offer compensation to a buyer's agent. This is not a requirement. However, we believe that buyers are best served to have a trusted advisor representing their interests. And if the seller is willing to offer compensation to a buyer's agent, it reduces the amount of cash the buyer actually has to bring to the closing table. To be clear, the buyer has contractually agreed to pay their agent, so if the listing agent doesn't cover that amount, the buyer is responsible to bring the rest of the fee to closing. So, what changed on Friday? The multiple listing services owned by NAR have said they will no longer allow listing firms to advertise the offer of compensation to buyer agents effective in July. The listing firm will have to communicate it via their own website or other means, or the buyer's agents will simply have to inquire. Practices are likely to evolve over time, as they always have. However, what I know for sure is that a primary residence is the single largest investment the majority of Americans will make in their lifetime. They are no less likely today to want someone to advise them and guide them through that process than they were yesterday. Buyer's agents are not extinct. If a seller chooses not to offer any compensation to a cooperating buyer's agent, the buyer will have to pay their agent directly, which will limit the number of buyers who can afford to make an offer on the home, especially in lower price points. Sellers have not been forced to use a full-service listing firm who charges 6%. And they have not been forced to pay buyer's agents. However, just like sellers have often paid for closing costs or made repairs, many have elected to hire a firm to list their home and to offer cooperating compensation in order to position them to get the highest price with the least amount of inconvenience. The range of fee structures and offers for cooperative compensation across firms are almost as unique as the homes they sell. I can think of a few companies who have been undercutting us on price for decades. The decision is in the hands of buyers and sellers today, just as it was yesterday. And as the idiom goes, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Per Merriam-Webster, it is not possible to get something that is desired or valuable without having to pay for it in some way. My parents bought a lot without taking the advice of their daughter. I did everything I could to try and raise them right. They found out their neighbor's house was on the property line after they closed. So while we're here, listen to your buyer's agent, and if they tell you to spend the $550 on a survey, I would do it. If you have questions about buying or selling real estate, ask a professional you trust. But remember, professional advice is not free. Unless you're my parents, and then you don't value it because it was free. Thank you very much. Have a great day.